Now back to the Brian Zimmerman Show. Here's Brian.
Hi, everyone. Brian here, once again at your side. Welcome back to another episode of The Brian Zimmerman Show. This week, we're going to talk about how I got into radio. I apologize for those who heard this story already, but back in high school, you come to a point where you have to decide on what the heck you're going to do for the rest of your life, what career you want to choose. And I know that I always wanted to do something with music. And I remember that I wanted to explore being a sound engineer. And I went to a local studio who was offering classes. And I remember the instructor looking at me and saying, "Kid, if you're thinking about doing this as a career, forget it." So the 16, 17-year-old Brian walked out of there with his head down and dreams crushed and wondering what the heck I'm going to think about doing next. And radio popped into my mind because I always admired and listened to some of the great disc jockeys back then: Pete Fornatel on 92.3 K-Rock, Dave Herman, the legend Scott Muni, and of course the king of all media. So radio was kind of really up my alley. Only problem was I didn't want to go to college to learn broadcasting. I didn't want to take any other courses but broadcasting. And the other option was to go to Connecticut School of Broadcasting, which everybody went to. I just didn't want to go there. Luckily, my guidance counselor found me a school in Trenton called the Bill Singer Training Center. And I went there and signed up for weekly classes. I graduated there with an FCC license, and then it was time to record and produce a demo to send out. Some of the radio stations that I was fortunate to interview with was WBRW in Bridgewater, which was at that time, it was a trailer out in the middle of a field. And I remember it was pouring rain that day, and I came into the studio there sopping wet. But it was cool. It was my first radio interview. WMGQ, I remember going to. Big fish tank and aquarium they had there, which was neat. I went to Star 99, and I also went to WKMB. And I remember handing the owner my demo tape at WKMB. He played it, and he turned around and said, "You sound like a girl." And then again, I found myself walking out of there with my head down, disappointed. And I had my work cut out for me because I had to redo the demo. And it took a while. I think a year or two. Then I went back to him, played the demo, my new demo tape, and he hired me for the weekday afternoon shift. And I remember calling Bill Singer, my radio instructor, and I said, "Bill," I said, "I finally got a radio job." And I says, "Can you do me a favor?" I said, "Can you record Welcome Back to the Brian Zimmerman Show for me? I want to play it on my radio show." "Yeah, sure, no problem. I'll send it right out. I'll record it now and send it out to you." The only problem was the owner of the station there didn't want to play it because he thought that Bill wanted royalties. He thought he wanted to get paid to use that intro. And I used that same intro on my radio show at WKMB. I had to get a letter from Bill that said no, that he didn't want any money for using it. And any companies out there listening that have any multimedia projects that require voice work or original music, I would be interested in talking with you to see if there's any opportunities in working together. So that is all for this episode. That's how I got into radio. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.